Jesus' view of life. What was special about it, and how are we to make sense of it? Welcome to young people everywhere in the world. Let's start with the obvious. The focal point in the life and public ministry of Jesus Christ was, in one word, life. The 10th verse of the 10th chapter of John's Gospel, we see Jesus saying, I have come that they means everyone in the world, not merely Christians, that they may have life and life in all its fullness. So it's not enough to have life to some extent, or life to a large extent, or life to a great extent. But the benchmark Jesus prescribes in this connection is very, very interesting, very notable. Life must be had in its fullness. Now, the universal manifestation of fullness is festival. There is no people, there is no culture in the world that is not dotted with festivals. I wonder if you have considered as to why festivals are so dear to people. Festivals are a paradoxical phenomenon in the sense that on the one hand, they attest the fundamental human need for fullness, for abundance, for exuberance, for celebration. On the other hand, it's also a reminder that this very goal, which is so universally coveted, is conspicuously absent from the way of life that we have created. Since life in its fullness is absent from the face of the earth, the only thing we can do is to set apart certain days and occasions for festivities. And festivities of this kind help in creating a fleeting illusion of life in its fullness. That's not what Jesus wants human beings to have. He believes that human beings, by virtue of their very special and unique creation in the image and likeness of God, are entitled to life in its fullness. Nothing less than fullness should satisfy a human being. But unfortunately, it's this very basic need, an essential goal that people reject in their pursuit after the pleasures and trophies of this world. So let's try and understand this in some light or the other. And I believe that this is of particular significance for young people to understand because they are still in a position to adopt the course corrections that might become both necessary and desirable in this light or in this regard. Now, in order to concretize our theme, let's look at a particular interaction between Jesus and a young man. You see that story recorded in the 19th chapter of the Gospel according to St. Matthew, where a young man, a good young man, rich, affluent, he has everything going for him, coming to Jesus in order to know the secret of inheriting eternal life. I don't want to take you through the details of that interaction. I just want you to come to the closing stages of that interaction, where Jesus takes him entirely by surprise. In fact, breaks his heart and says, if you would like to have eternal life, all you have to do is to go and sell all you have, give to the poor, and then come and follow me, then you will have life. Now, Jesus, of course, is here illustrating or underlining a major fallacy that people entertain in the religious field, is particularly rampant among Christians, that they can inherit eternal life without being responsible for the life given to them here upon the earth. How can you make yourself eligible for eternal life if you don't make eminent sense of the life that's given to you here and now? So Jesus says the only road to eternal life is the life that's given to you here and now. Therefore, learn to live it well. And therefore, the all-important practical question in spirituality is how to live and how to live in a wholesome manner. So in this video, we are going to consider only one aspect of it. This is a multifaceted question, and all of the various dimensions and issues cannot be examined in the course of 10 to 15 minutes, and therefore you'll pardon me that I'm going to focus on a single issue, and that is, what kind of persons do you want to be? When you're young, one of the most crucial decisions you have to make is a decision as to what sort of a human being you want to be. But unfortunately, that is not widely known or recognized. People think that the most important decision to make is how much one should earn, what lifestyle one should covet and attain, what particular locations or settings and nature of work one should do, what sort of societies one should move in, so on and so forth. These are all the accessories of life, the means for life. And as the great scientist Albert Einstein said, the characteristic foolishness of the modern man is that he mistakes the means for ends, and his obsession with the means, he forgets the end, the very purpose of life. The means and accessories of life, the instrumentalities of life are prioritized over the very purpose of life. It's like, you're buying a set of expensive cutting-edge technology kitchen knives, and then you get so completely obsessed with it that you say, well, I'm not going to use it because if I use it, its sheen might go, and consequently you starve because no work happens in the kitchen. Without using these knives in the kitchen, vegetables can't be cut, meat can't be cut, cooking cannot happen, and out of your commitment to what are the mere instruments, you end up starving. A similar thing happens in life, against which young people in particular need to be aware and vigilant, and that's the purpose of this video. So the most important issue that we have to confront at this stage in our life is, what shall be our priority? Now, in the interest of simplicity and clarity of thinking, let me here mention that we have to choose between two completely different orientations in life. And I say this purely in the light of the teachings of Jesus Christ. If you read the four Gospels with focus on the teachings of Jesus Christ, you will realize that his focus, his priority was entirely on what kind of human beings we must become. For example, when he said, you are the salt of the earth, there's no reference here. There's not even a momentary thought about what you own, what you have, and where you are located, what kind of social echelon or status you enjoy, so on and so forth. It is a reference purely to the kind of human being that you are. Who you are is the simplest way of putting it. Likewise, when he said, you are the light of the world, you are. It's a statement that pertains to your being, what kind of a person you are. You should be the light of the world, or you should be the leaven in the lump. You are the children of God. You are my friends, so on and so forth. You will not come across a single instance in the life and teachings of Jesus Christ where Jesus recommends that you should have this by way of material possessions. Rather, all his teachings are to the contrary. If you read the 10th chapter of Matthew's Gospel, where Jesus commissions his 12 disciples and sends them out, he says you should not own anything beyond the bare essentials of life. Have no thought at all for profit-making or material gains of any kind. Freely you have received, freely give. Do not see this as an opportunity or occasion for thriving materially in this world, because if you do so, then you lose your direction entirely and you'll end up completely emptied out, frustrated, broken, and degraded. So, there are two completely different orientations. And these orientations may be denoted as the orientation to having versus the orientation to being. I repeat, the orientation to having, seeing life and oneself in terms of owning this, that, and the other. And the main motive that operates, the main desire that operates in that direction is covetousness, against which there is an explicit commandment included in the 10 Commandments, as all of us know. So that is the orientation to having. In this orientation, or if you have this kind of outlook on life, the value that you attach to individuals will be determined almost entirely by the extent of their material possessions. And this will render you blind, as Adam Smith points out so eloquently in his wonderful book, which economists unfortunately these days do not read, Theory of Moral Sentiments. Theory of Moral Sentiments by Adam Smith, who is otherwise famous throughout the world for his magnum opus, his classical work in economics titled The Wealth of Nations. The Wealth of Nations. But I value Adam Smith much more for his book on ethics titled A Theory of Moral Sentiments as compared to The Wealth of Nations. Now, in that book, Adam Smith points out that those who have this attitude of having, or those who see themselves and the world in terms of possessions and increasing their possessions, they will become blind to human worth. Suppose they come across a rich man, a billionaire if you like, a Bill Gates or whatever, and then juxtapose him with one who has absolutely no material wealth, but one who is a sage, a man of profound wisdom. The person with the having orientation will have no respect for the man of wisdom, whereas he'll prostrate himself at the feet of the billionaire. And Adam Smith, one of the greatest theoreticians on wealth, the production and distribution of wealth, says that this is stupid. That is, becoming blind to human worth on account of your obsession with material possessions is stupid. And it corrupts you, and it shows you in a poor light, and you do a great disservice to yourself by acquiring this orientation in life. Unfortunately, as Adam Smith himself points out, and he realized it only too well, that the kind of world in which we are living and the cultures in which we are being nurtured, even the domestic promptings that we receive from birth onwards, are all towards our acquiring this orientation to acquisition, the orientation to having rather than being. And here, if I may make an additional reference to a very interesting, simple book by Bertrand Russell, it's titled Political Ideals. Bertrand Russell says there are three basic essential aspects to a person who leads a healthy life. I'll very quickly mention them, very easy to remember them. The very first thing he mentions in the order of priority is the reorientation from the acquisitive to a creative mode of being. The reorientation. He says that this acquisitive mode is destroying us, destroying our very humanity. It is making us worse than animals. All the violence in the world, all the crookedness, all the wars and the rumors of wars, the bloodshed, man's cruelty to man, so on and so forth, all that is perverse and wicked in this world that we love is on account of this covetousness, which pertains to the having orientation. Having orientation. You know that famous story by Count Leo Tolstoy? How much land does a man need? A man is given the promise or gift to own as much land as he can cover in one day's time, and he keeps running, and there's no end to his covetousness. If ultimately he drops down dead. So now the question is, how much land does his corpse need? Only the great mansion of 6 by 2. As a Latin poet, Horace, once said, we use the noblest materials in building great mansions, whereas the only mansion we need is that little mansion of 6 by 2. People forget these realities. And it's important that people, while they are young, people like you, become aware of this reality so that you're oriented in the right manner. Jesus makes it amply clear that those who run after the vain shadows of this world, those who are on this rat race or this wild goose chase, will end up completely corrupted, inwardly corroded, their self-worth and human dignity totally destroyed. And we see these tragedies in large numbers in our times. But unfortunately, many people do not learn from these repetitive instances of the calamities that beset the accusative orientation, or the orientation to have rather than to be. In contrast, Jesus presents a different goal, a different orientation to life, which is what I recommend to you, which is what I chose for myself, the orientation to be. Now, I can tell you one thing. When I was young, and the many people in my extended family circles became rich. We did not hail from a rich stock in Kerala. We were economically poor, but because of the high mobility of Christians, many of them went abroad in the early stages to Malaya, later on Malaysia, Singapore, that region, then to Ceylon, then to the Middle East, then to Europe, America, that kind of thing. At that time, because of the kind of flamboyance associated with the aura of affluence, etc., and the kind of comparative poverty in which I languished. As a young person, I thought it might be a very good idea to be rich. I remember that ABBA song, "Money, money, money, must be funny in the rich man's world." Well, it looks funny, must be funny. It doesn't say he's funny, must be funny, right? But that fun doesn't last. It doesn't take very long for the fun to turn into something more grim. And that's exactly what Jesus pointed out through his parable of two contrasting ways. You find that in the 13th, 14th, 15th verses of the Gospel according to Matthew, where he says that there is a broad way, there is a narrow way. The broad way leads to everlasting damnation. That broad way is the way of acquisition, the way of having, and the way of determining one's worth entirely in terms of what one owns and possesses. The narrow way is the way of being, in which the wealth one has is entirely in relation to what is one inwardly, not in terms of what can be flaunted outwards. The very same idea Jesus expresses, given its importance, in a different way in the 6th chapter of Matthew's Gospel from verse 24 onwards, 24 to 33, where Jesus says, Matthew chapter 6, yes, not 24 to 36, but before that, where he says, why do you run after the wealth that doesn't keep at all in this world? The wealth that thieves breaking and steal, where moth and rust corrupt, etc., etc. Gather for yourself treasures in heaven, which is safe from all these perversions and corruptions. This treasure in heaven is your personality, is who you are, is your being. Jesus is saying you must invest in your being. Spirituality is the discipline of investing in becoming rich in yourself. And not rich in terms of having this, that, or the other, including titles, positions, the acclaim of the world, money, social status symbols, so on and a host of things. And what you are within yourself is something that is completely insured against the vicissitudes of this world, the corrupting influences of this world, and this is the treasure that will last unto eternity. If there is a heaven, and that heaven will comprise, I believe, entirely of the personality merit that individuals gather while they are upon this earth. I believe that each one of us is given a comparatively short stint on planet Earth in order to gain the wealth it takes to live well in eternity. Now, very much like, from Kerala, people going and living abroad, working abroad, so that they can come back to Kerala and lead a rich life in the eyes of others and be the objects of other people's envy. It's a crude parallel, but something like that. We are given a short sojourn here so that we may earn the merit the wherewithal, the resources, the treasures, if you like, that would be valid in the world to come. And that is only in terms of our personality, only in terms of being rather than having. Whatever we have in this world in terms of material possessions, whatever is external to us, no matter how splendid, how great, how widely acclaimed these things are, they will not stand the test of time. You cannot take them beyond the portals of death. And from my experience, I can tell you, having seen both youth and old age, that the kind of importance that we may attach to acquiring the glittering things of the world when we are young steadily declines, mark my words, steadily declines. And as you enter old age, as I have already done, what was once considered a great achievement and a great blessing slowly begins to become a burden and a snare, become totally irrelevant to our life and personality. Therefore, my advice to young people out of love is this: invest in your personality. It doesn't matter what you have, what matters in the end is who you are. And that's the heart of the spiritual vision that Jesus Christ has given us. I commend these thoughts to you and pray that you reflect on this and apply in a practical way the relevance of it to your day-to-day decisions as well as the larger goals that pursue. All blessings now and always. Thank you and have a great day.